Hi, Barbara Wally here, orthopedic and sports certified physical therapist, to talk to you about nutrition and sports and exercise performance. Before we get started, I'd just like to let you know that I am not a nutritionist and I am also not a registered dietitian, but I have an extensive amount of sports training with my sports certification, so I would like to give you an overview of nutrition and sports performance or high activity or exercise performance. So first, let's dive in. There are three main sources of nutrition when it comes to diet. And we're talking about sports and exercise performance. We're not talking about weight loss. The first I'd like to talk about are carbohydrates. So believe it or not, up to 2/3 of your diet should be from carbohydrates when you're talking about sports performance and high activity or high exercise. This includes grains, potatoes, rice, even sugar and pasta. And we'll get into more details of that in subsequent videos. But they consider this to be the master fuel for athletics. And this is for all athletes, and it's considered a good fuel for performance. Oftentimes, people do not eat enough of carbs, especially with fad diets nowadays. And endurance athletes, think marathoners, really need about 3/4 of their diet to be made up of carbohydrates for proper performance. The next we'd like to talk about is proteins. Proteins should make up roughly up to 1/5 of your diet. This is including meat and eggs, dairy, and nuts, just to name a few. And often, especially nowadays with fad dieting, people tend to exceed this for performance, especially with the use of supplementation of protein. When you think of protein, think of maybe weightlifters. You're trying to increase muscle mass and therefore protein. The third I'd like to talk about is fats. This is about 1/4 to maybe 1/3 of an athlete or high activity diet. This includes oils and nuts, butters, bacon, and cream cheese. Or really, you can consume more than 1/4 to 1/3 depending on the sport or the athletics. So again, carbs or carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These are called macronutrients. I'm sure if you've heard or you've taken an interest in diet, you've heard of macronutrients. It's these three: carbs, proteins, and fats. And that's what I will focus on in this video and subsequent videos as well. And generally, you can break down into 3 categories of performance when we're talking about diet. We're talking about power, we're talking about speed, and endurance. So power, think weightlifting. You're looking for high power. Speed, that's being fast or sprinting activities or sprinting sports. And as well as endurance, think runners, marathoners, swimmers, triathletes. And to make note, the longer time you are exercising, there's a greater contribution of fats as fuel. So think of the physique of a marathon runner. They tend to be very lean and have a very low fat distribution. Carbs must be present to break down fats at the rates needed to support caloric demands of an exercise in sport. So in essence, you do need carbohydrates if you're going to exercise and you want to perform. So a caloric deficit, and nowadays with a lot of fad diets, they restrict carbohydrates. The body will pull from fat stores, which will produce weight loss. So if you're trying to lose weight, it's great to cut your carbohydrates, maybe not completely, but when you're talking about exercising and wanting to perform, it's really not a good rule of thumb to cut out your carbs entirely. And this can reduce your performance. Carb-low diets are not appropriate for athletes. And this includes trendy diets as well, like intermittent fasting or juicing, or just high caloric restriction diets in general. So in summary, you really do need carbohydrates. So this is like a 1/2 to roughly 2/3 depending on the athlete and depending on the activity. And this does include complex carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, and we'll also talk about empty carbohydrates. We won't go into detail in this video, but we definitely will in my next video. Also, we do need our proteins, and that's up to about 1/5. So this is your meat and eggs and dairy. And you also need your fats as well in your diet. So generally the breakdown, the general recommendation, this is general, this isn't speaking to a specific sport, is going to be about 50% of your diet, so that's on average, should be out of carbohydrates. Roughly 20% of your diet should be from proteins, and then about 30% of your diet should be from fats, believe it or not. So I hope this video was really helpful. The next video, we will talk about specifics and great choices for foods with carbs, fats, and proteins when it comes to high activity or sports performance. But I hope this was helpful, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.